Don't do that.
Oh, okay, they're here in the back. They said different people.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the regularly stated meeting for the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. Today's date is Thursday, March 7th, 2024. This is to formally advise that as required by General Law, Chapter 38, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16, 2021, as extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, the Yarmouth Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted above. The public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. Our first order of business tonight is a continued notice of intent for SE 83-2413, Cape and Islands Engineering for Eric Moore, 26 Glenwood Street, proposed raise and replacement of the single-family dwelling with new septic in the buffer zones to a bordering vegetated wetland and coastal bank.
Hello, good evening. Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering on behalf of the applicant Eric Moore for 26 Glenwood Street. So after the initial hearing a couple weeks ago, we reviewed Section 6 regarding mitigation and requirements for a project like this. So we have tallied the existing condition versus proposed conditions in a square footage table for mitigation under the mitigation planting notes section. And based on the new work, the areas in green on the plan show areas that we're proposing to mitigate to per the requirement for this deck area and the rinse station, and a small portion of the bulkhead is in the 35 to 50 foot zone, so that is being mitigated at 3-to-1, as well as any other improvements in excess of existing conditions in the 50 to 100 foot. We've also added a note to that we're going to permanently install not a fence, because the applicant does just like the openness to the area and back, but we were going to permanently install like 18-inch posts along the property line in order to delineate that line so that to ensure no encroachment into off the property in the future. Other changes, I think we already had the dry wells on the plan at the time, and we've added the proposed mitigation plantings that we're proposing. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Brittany?
My only comment is that usually our mitigation plantings are meant to increase the buffer zone to the wetland. So usually foundation landscaping doesn't count as mitigation, but it's up to the board to decide whether they would accept yours.
Part of it's in the 50. All right, anybody else?
No, she said we're-
Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? Raise your hand digitally,
Yes, I have a question.
unless there's further.
We're going to ask them then to remove that mitigation on the, basically the south and north end of the building and put that on the west side?
The board strongly feel that way? As you'd like that?
Point it out, please.
348 feet.
So instead of,
So those two areas there, then that's it, almost a north and a south orientation, and move those mitigation points to the western. I think that's what we're trying to achieve.
You're all in favor of that? Okay, all right.
We understand the
I'm not,
comment.
so can you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Christine Greeley. I actually live on Glenwood Street. I'm sorry I was a little late. Traffic was a nightmare over the bridge. I just was interested in knowing, will all of the appropriate setbacks on the sides, the front, be achieved in this design? And then also, because there's a great deal of work being done at this point in the bog, I'm assuming that everything that you're approving is going to match or mesh with the current plans in terms of the restoration of the bog out behind. I actually welcome the idea that there'll be a new property there. There's been significant improvements over the last few years from it looking like part of the western part of the town dump and waste facility, and now moving forward. But I just am interested about the setbacks, if that's going to be achieved, and just the protection. Basically, looks like the septic system is going out front, which would be a help to the bog. But just in terms of coordination with the restoration efforts that are going to be made out there. Thank you.
I can't really speak to the setbacks, so those are zoning issues, so I don't know what all of them are.
I mean, I can't read from
can-
here. Yeah, thank
Can you?
I can answer that. We are meeting required front, side, and rear setbacks. That's all.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
Can I get your last name again?
Mine? Dibb, D-I-B-B.
Thank you.
All right, unless there's further conversation, yeah.
Can I ask this an aside? I'm not that familiar with the septic tanks these days. This is not an advanced treatment, I presume.
Correct, yes. This is just a straight, no increase in flow
Yeah.
repair of the system.
But someday you may be required to, and so you're willing to not have to do it now versus sometime, you will have to sometime in the future, maybe.
I can
can't-
make that recommendation to my client,
No, it's
but,
not, that's my own,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that's fine.
can't make that
yeah.
determine, that's,
yep.
this is it's a legal system that you've proposed, so that's what we have to vote on.
Understood.
All right, anybody else on the board? Did I ask about Zoom? I think I did.
You did.
All right, unless any further discussion, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the plan with, subject to a revised plan showing the redistribution of the landscape, or sorry, the mitigation planting from the foundation to the rest of the mitigation area?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
One down.
That's okay. All right, our next order of business, another continued notice of intent for SE 83-2403, Paul and Nancy Cruz, 52 Prince Road, after the fact filing for unpermitted patios, rinsing station, gravel hardscape, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the buffer zones to a coastal bank and salt marsh. We have a letter asking for a continuance to March 21st. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Can you tell us your reasoning, considering this could be there?
1, 2,
There's,
3.
there's no reason.
Fourth.
This is their last continuance request. I let them know that this is their limit. They've reached the limit.
Okay.
So they will be here on March 21st, and they have already submitted their plans.
Did they give a reasoning or just ask?
The landscaping
could not
plan
meet the
will remain
deadline.
No, there's no. All right,
So moved.
do I get a yes, second?
Second. Oh,
Who was seconded?
That was Jack.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Our next order of business is a continued request to amend an order of conditions for SE 83-2252 Ron Cadillac for Stephen and Christine Arden, 65 Winter Street, proposed construction of a 3-bedroom dwelling with 2-car garage within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. This is being amended to propose a swimming pool and retaining walls.
I had failed to update the owner. I do understand that.
Oh,
it's the
okay.
owner. I apologize.
That's all right. This is Ron Cadillac, and to my right is Paul McCarthy, and he is the current owner, along with his wife. We've made
This is what the,
All right, go ahead.
a number of changes. We're proposing within the 50-foot buffer to remove all the existing walls, and we're removing about 65 yards of fill in that area. And we're proposing, we shrunk the pool. The pool is about 9 foot 1 inch by 17.5 feet now, instead of the, what was it? 12 by 26 pool before, and we're proposing 53 lineal feet of wall, 50.5 feet off of the wetlands, so it's out of the 50-foot buffer, and it will retain the soil that's currently there. And we're proposing 518 square feet of block patio, and those are the major changes. And I would probably just throw it back to the board if they have any questions on anything. Yeah, and in terms of the mitigation, we're over 800 square feet beyond what's required, basically. And we were wondering, I talked to Phil Cheney about the planting beds, and he indicated that within a year or two, the whole planting bed B and C would pretty much be brush and grown up. And they have a very tiny backyard. I was just looking out of the kitchen window this afternoon, and it's a hope that maybe instead of the plantings we're proposing for B and C, we could put native grass in and maybe wildflowers, and they could at least roam that portion of their yard. And it wouldn't have a standard lawn, but we're throwing that out because it's a large lot, but the way that it is shaped, the wetlands is in the middle. And the only practically usable part of the lot is the front. And it's not a lot of room. We got the house pretty much where it has to be for the offsets required by zoning. And if the board would consider that, we'd appreciate it. And that, do you want to add anything, Paul?
No, I think we're good. We were here, 6 weeks ago?
Yes.
Yeah, we understand that the walls have to be removed, the fill has to be removed, has to be graded between the 35 and 50, and we want to be in compliance with that.
Do we have a separate thing for planting?
No.
No.
It's on.
It's on the plan, on the top of the plan, the planting beds.
Top right-hand quadrant.
Well, anybody on the board who has any questions?
Can you point out where B and C are?
I don't have a digital copy of the
Can
plan
you
yet,
point out where
so.
B and C are?
Yeah, essentially this is a quarter pool, that's the new wall, and this whole area is bed B. And
Okay, okay, I see it now.
It's what's between 35 and 50 feet in this area. And then outside of this is bed C, and of course bed E runs here. You can see if you look on your copy, you can see the kind of the green lettering. And,
So you'd like to turn that into wildflowers, is that what you're saying?
Well, native grass, it would grow up, you know, it would be like a wild field, basically. And
Would you manage it then?
probably, I would think it would be like a situation where maybe once a year you'd cut it back or something. I'm open for suggestions on, and
That's what I'm saying. If you just do regular grass and leave it go, you know, some sort of grass, you're going to say it's a meadow grass, then I'm afraid that over time, it's going to become part of the forward portion of the pool, and it'll be mowed frequently and fertilized and everything else. So,
well, my understanding that is the conditions, original conditions, which I could drag out if you want me to, we're not supposed to use fertilizer within the 50-foot buffer. That's my understanding. That's a standard condition that you folks put. So essentially, any fertilizer is going to be beyond the 50, which practically means the whole backyard is a no fertilizer zone.
Okay.
Is that,
yeah, I mean, I just don't want to see this getting, you know, like I said, 5-10 years down the line, all of a sudden this is now going to be turning into a well-manicured grassy area that no longer is functioning as a mitigation area. That's my only concern. So, I mean, we can put conditions on the project that say, you know, the area, I mean, you don't have it being marked as such, right?
no, but I could revise the plan and give you a couple of copies for the official record and put some description in there, because right now we have, what do we have? We have Area B as Summer Sweet, and, well, we just got the scientific names. Widow Rod Viburnum, and then in bed C, we're getting rid of the grass plumes that are out there, and we're putting in compact winterberry, red sprite, in that area. So that's what we currently have proposed. So it would be reasonable if the board accepted native grasses and wildflowers in that area, it would be reasonable, and you put some conditions on it, we could put it right on the plan. And
Sorry. So we're going from all of that
So I have a question.
along here.
What is this here?
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's effectively 44 feet away to the 50.
I mean, I would go,
Also, that area is between the wall and the wetland, correct?
correct.
So I'm not sure what the benefit of that being wildflowers would even have, because you wouldn't be able to use that space as a yard. I mean, our mitigation plantings are shrubs. It's in our regulations that mitigation is shrubs unless otherwise approved, but the area would even be difficult to mow because it's behind the wall and get in there to manage it. That's why I think shrubs would be more appropriate in that spot.
And
Okay.
also, how many hydrangea are there and where are they?
The hydrangeas are not in that area. They're up in bed D, which is not even green here. It's essentially a planting bed here that runs from this point here, pretty much flush with the back edge of the garage. Bed D is about 4 feet wide and just runs along here. And that's the original, you know, the original order allowed the hydrangeas, and basically, they're existing ones that are out there. I don't know, they might be moved around a little
Yeah,
bit
they'll be moved.
to conform to the latest plan, but essentially they're already planted and already there. And they were in the original order of conditions.
For the north.
But
They're not in, there's no hydrangea in the buffer zone.
But how many are there?
How many?
I'll say 10 or 12.
That's what that is. Yeah.
That's a question, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you repeat why you think the wildflower and native grasses area would be an advantage for you
When,
or for the property?
when we had Phil Cheney out at the site, and he was to draw up the proposed planting beds, he made the comment to me, at that time, bed B was a narrow bed, and it was just between the wall that we built that we're removing, and he told me that would grow up and blend in with,
Just to the north of
it's,
planting bed
it's
C.
pretty much brush once you get out of that, within the 35-foot buffer. He said that would grow up and just blend in.
You mean,
And-
you mean what's on the plan would grow? up
Right,
and-
and, you know, he pretty much said it would be impenetrable, that area, once, in a year or two, once everything grew up. And that was the thing that sat in my mind is now, since essentially the new regulations require a 50-foot buffer, and they don't have a very large yard, that if that whole area becomes impenetrable, it'll just be another area that they're losing, and,
But it would, I think it would be a mitigation area, and so it wouldn't be something, I think, it's already been, and I think I understand that, it wouldn't be something that
Originally.
would be carefully and precisely maintained
Area it's not supposed to.
in any kind of a, I don't know,
But it was
specific
undisturbed.
way. It would be a natural growth area,
undisturbed.
wouldn't it?
yes.
What you desire in terms of that
area.
Right.
buffer area.
But it would be something they could walk on, you know, and they could, you know,
Yeah, see, that's the
That's the
issue.
problem,
The
yeah.
mitigation area is not supposed to be used for entertaining or walking, or it's supposed to be there to preserve and further prevent nutrients from flowing into the wetland. So that's the whole point behind the mitigation area to begin with, is that we're aiming for the 50-foot. That's what we're trying to do. So I don't know that I'm convinced that a meadow area or
That's fine.
wildflower
We'll go with
area
the
there would
shrubs.
be.
The shrubs will work.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe some careful selection of shrubs that maybe are native but would be relatively slow growing or small in structure or composition would be appropriate, as opposed to something that would get wild and crazy and then, you know, be a big wall behind your pool. You know, I don't know if such a thing exists, but I understand what you're trying to do, but, you know, I agree also with what Ed is saying.
Yeah, I just think, you know, I think what you have proposed was actually a good mix of things to put in that area. You know, it's not supposed to be a usable spot. It's supposed to be there for, I mean, there's no view. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand. I mean, if you were looking to do some sort of a view beyond that, I would say after the 3 years, you could probably entertain some sort of a view corridor, but that's not what you're looking to do, right? I mean, there's nothing there to view, there's nothing there to view, right?
you're okay if we go with
Yeah,
what's
that's
on the
fine.
plan,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we'll just go with what's on the plan. We were just asking, and
Okay. Well, that's all I had.
So Ron, if you would, on your plan, item 10, and I'm having a hard time identifying what that is. Is that some sort of wall? It's just to the north of planting area C. It's, looks like it might be some sort of wall.
Right here. This. You're talking about that offset, the offset L?
That's a 10-foot
10-foot,
contour.
oh, it's a contour line, okay.
That's the existing contour.
It's so much thicker that I didn't see it as a contour line. Great, thank you.
There's a 20-foot one now.
Yeah.
A lot going on in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because the the
you're
dark
using every
black
sheet
or
here.
gray lines were the original grade. I pulled that off the original plan, so.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, anybody else? Brittany,
No, nothing else.
anybody in the audience? This is the only disadvantage of having this. I like the old school stuff with the boards and everything, but anybody in the on Zoom?
I don't see any hand raised.
Unless somebody, or unless there's any further discussion on the board, would somebody like to make a motion to approve or amend the order of conditions? Yeah, approve the project with the new amended order of conditions.
Go ahead.
So moved.
That was Jack.
Can you second it, Rick?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, would you please send me a digital copy? I never got one in my email of this plan.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Did you mean to leave 2 signature sheets?
No, it's probably just a duplicate. Oh, yeah, that's an enforcement. So we're going to resolve those right now, right?
I'll take care of this as well then. Okay.
No, it's kernels.
All right, next order of business is a notice of intent for SE 83-2414 Hannah Raddatz BSC Group for Kevin Hoyle and Emma Ashley Ranta, 205 South Street, proposed raise and replace of a garage and land subject to coastal storm flowage, the buffer zones to a coastal bank, bordering vegetated wetland and salt marsh.
Doesn't look like Hannah.
Hannah, it looks like it's been a rough week.
You'll be glad to know I was in Worcester 2.5 hours ago making a presentation on the importance of coastal banks. I have 40 land surveyors there listening to me on how important it is to deal with them properly. And I was thinking of this board as I was making my speech.
As you should be.
Hopefully favorably.
As you mentioned, we're here to do a raise and replace on a garage and increase the size of the garage. Majority of the new garage will be over the driveway and over the existing garage, but we do have an area that's required of 70 square feet of additional. We're proposing 202 square feet of mitigation area on the south west corner, where it's closest to the wetland, to fill in that area. And as I mentioned, the majority of the new garage is over the driveway and over the existing garage. It is close to the wetlands, and that's why we're holding that back corner. We're not going any closer to the wetlands than that, and we really can't come any closer to the street because of the street setback. So other than that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, questions from the board?
The mitigation location is interesting.
Whoa.
Karen, you said that the garage can't go any closer to the street, is that?
Correct, yeah, it lines up with the back of the building, and the street setback is 30 feet. So we're 33 feet back.
Okay, anybody else? Pat?
The mitigation area is kind of in the corner there. Prefer it to be closer to increase the buffer zone area if it's possible.
Well, it's actually, if you look at where wetland flag 111 is on the plan, if you look on the screen over here, you'll see 111 just north of that area.
Yeah.
So the wetland, that actually is the very closest area to the resource that we could put the mitigation. And that was the reason we put it in that spot, because that's the closest, and we felt that was the best spot to put it.
Any thought given to replacing the lawn that runs parallel to that wetlands line as a way to mitigation there, opposed to this?
No, we went with the closest area. I mean, the thing is, this area that we have allows us to put in a rectangular area. If we put something along the edge, it's going to be 2 feet wide. It's not going to be of any significance. We basically have a plant. The spacing wouldn't generate any natural habitat. And we figured in this location, even though it's further away from the house, yes, it's kind of the best location to put in an area where animals could potentially live, as well as the plants. So that was the thought behind the process of putting in this location.
Let's think about that. Any feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either one is going to be providing a huge amount of wildlife benefit either way, so. I mean, it's such a small amount of mitigation required that,
And we're actually required 140 square feet at 2-to-1. We're proposing 200 square feet. So we are trying to make it a little bit
Nice of you.
better.
Ask what kind of plantings will you put in there?
On the top of the plan, we have sweet pepper bush, sweet fern, and northern bayberry. The northern bayberry goes to 6 foot, and we're proposing 4 of them.
Okay.
So it'll be pretty dense once it's,
Yeah. So at least some birds will be able to fly in there and stuff, it'll be good. Okay.
in a couple of years, it'll be dense. That's,
This project is going to be a nightmare.
I think you put that in restriction. Oh, that. I think you put that as part of his properties there. I think you put it in the restriction.
so just so I get the sense from the board, you're okay with the plan as is then, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're agreeing? Okay.
And it is nice work.
Great. Anybody else? Brittany?
I have 2 questions. This had one of the first orders of condition, number 4. Can you confirm that the tennis court was built to the, because a certificate of compliance wasn't required for that, since it was number 4?
as far as we can tell, the tennis court was built where it was supposed to be built.
And in the right
We've
size?
located, and we've shown it on this plan, but, you know, actually, we had planned on doing a certificate of compliance, but if one wasn't requested, how do we deal with it?
It wasn't required. I just asked Hannah if she could confirm the dimensions at the same hearing.
Okay.
At some point, if you could just confirm that.
I will, yes, we did, as I say, we did locate the outside of the fence, and the tennis court falls within it, obviously, and
Okay.
it's all paved in that area.
Okay.
And the tennis court has been there
Oh, boy.
before I came to town, so it's been there a long time.
Yeah. There was one open violation from April 2021 that I found in the file, and it did have required plantings in front of those little fence pieces on the fragmented coastal bank. And I'm not sure if all of them were put in. Here's one of those fence pieces, and it's bare in front. Some of them there's some plantings, but it might be insufficient. I can give you a copy of that, but we would hope that that would be resolved through the process of this permit as well.
I mean, if the commission were inclined, we could put that in as one of the requirements for the
Special
COC, that's resolved.
I'd appreciate it, yeah. That would be good.
Those were all my questions. Thank you.
Well, it could be this fall.
That's not on this plan, right, Brittany? That's just,
No, I found it in the folder. So it's an old hand-drawn plan from a violation from their patios. They had to put some plantings in back here, and there's a whole planting plan.
do you just want to use that plan as well as this, as the plan of record then?
Sure.
Okay. That way you don't have to come back with a revised plan.
I will inform the client.
Okay?
So it will be in the order of conditions, right? It will be in the
It'll be
order
part
of
of,
conditions.
yeah. Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? Unless there's further discussion, somebody'd like to make a motion to approve the project as proposed with special conditions?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Brittany. Just a technical question. As there was an order of conditions issued, and it's on record, even though a COC was not required, if they want a clean title, they're still going to need a COC, right?
I would recommend they file a COC. Hannah pointed out that it didn't require one, so I can't make them file a COC.
I will require them.
I would recommend that they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business is another notice of intent for SE 83-2419, Mark Burgess for John and Georgia Vanticus, 5 Compass Road, Compass Drive, proposed bulkhead replacement and dredging in land under the ocean, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Good evening. For the record, Mark Burgess with Shorefront Consulting for your next 4 projects.
Sure.
Taking all the lines again, I just gotta get it.
Okay. So this project, I'm going to say relatively straightforward. The existing permitted and licensed bulkhead is showing signs of degradation. There's some sinkholes behind it. If anybody's been to the site or looked at the pictures, it's not ready to fall down, but given the time it takes to get permits and find contractors and do work, it's better to have it ready to go just in case. The bulkhead will be replaced with standard vinyl sheeting, same height, same location, no seaward encroachment, no change at all. It has to be back excavated, and then to remove the soil and remove the load, and then the sheeting is replaced in sections as you go, and then buttoned back up as you go. In addition, the project includes some dredging. The area was previously dredged, I'm going to say for 2 reasons. There's a previous order of conditions for the bulkhead that had a small amount of dredging incorporated into the order. And then, of course, the way these canals were created, I don't know, back in the 50s or whenever, they, of course, altered the whole area to create the fingers. I call it the Yarmouth fingers because I live in Dennis, and we all know that the Dennis fingers created the same way in 1955. Anyway, we're proposing 98 cubic yards of dredging to remove unsuitable sediments, first of all, but also because the boat is literally resting on the bottom at this point. And I don't have the permits to tell you how deep the area was previously dredged when it was created, but we're just asking for -3, I believe it's -3, to provide suitable depth under the boat. The sediment, especially at the ends of these canals, is all silt. It's all that poopy mud, horrible stuff. The Shellfish Survey, I think, showed 1 live oyster up against the bulkhead somewhere toward the upper corner, and that was it. Everything else was just shack or nothing. So it's a pretty degraded area as far as shellfish habitat goes. Standard conditions would apply to the dredging by mechanical means, whether it's done from a barge or from the top of the bulkhead or the yard. That would depend on the contractor. The spoils could be loaded. If they did it with a crane, they could probably do it from the land, reach out and grab the dredge spoils and swing them into a truck that would be in the driveway where the boats are stored right now, because he's on the corner there. But that particular part of the protocol would be up to the contractor. But they could do it from a working barge and truck it away to a boat ramp and offload it there. But my guess is they do it with a crane. The Division of Marine Fisheries had, I would say, what I call their standard conditions for projects like this to protect the resource area. We did go in front of Waterways, and they recommended approval of the project. And that's about it for this one. So I can address any questions you might have.
Okay, so I am looking at the DMF letter and recommendations. They do state that you're too close to the salt marsh. That they are looking to see that top of slope be no closer than 25 feet. So you're gonna have to move that, right?
Not necessarily. So what they're suggesting, which is only a suggestion, is in regards to a 401 water quality certificate. If you have to get a water quality certificate, the requirements of that certificate are that you can't dredge closer than 25 feet from the salt marsh. anything under 100 cubic yards does not require a water quality certificate, and therefore that dredging parameter doesn't apply.
But they're recommending it.
They always recommend something, but it's not part of the rules. I did put a gentle slope there, so when they go up against that area, I don't expect it to slough. There's no current there. There might be some wave action from boats, but, it doesn't see a lot of energy, which is why the sediment just gets packed up in those areas anyway.
So, one question. When we were there, you're just dredging in front of this person's house.
Yep.
But across the channel, whatever you want to call it, won't all that silt just make its way back into
It could.
the area? And you'll be dredging once a year?
Well, no, it won't fill in that fast. Remember, whenever this area was created, so I'll just use the Dennis Fingers as an example because I'm familiar with that. That area was dredged to -10, according to the Army Corps permit. And it's taken 50 years for it to silt in enough that anybody is worrying about it for their boat clearance. So because there's no current here, because it's only wind-driven, any kind of sediments or anything like that, the siltation has been quite slow. And so this is the first time that the applicant has needed to re-dredge the area to maintain the boat clearance. So no, I would, 10, 20 years before they'd even consider having to worry about it again. And I only say that because I don't know how long it took to get like this.
Anybody else?
Well, I have a concern about the whole area there, the last two pictures she had, because it already shows quite a bit of erosion there. And if you take more sand around, it's just going to destabilize the area. Let alone, what is the pile of wood structure or whatever that's all shored up there? Is that,
I'm guessing that used to be there and maybe part of the boat.
it looks like they're going to dredge right there, and that's,
We're in front of that.
but that whole area shows quite a bit of erosion.
Yeah, we're only going east up to the edge of the landing, because that's where the boat is. And, well, that's where, I'm sorry, that's not where the boat is, but that's where I have to start the slope. If you look at the elevations, that's where I have to start the slope. Now, that's a 3-to-1 slope. That's more than stable under most conditions, especially in an area with no real waves or current. But I have to start somewhere so that I get to 3 feet by the time I'm under the boat. So that's why the dredge area is positioned the way it is.
Can you tell us how far it is from the salt marsh as you have it right now?
It's the
We
only
just don't have a scale.
Yeah,
Sheathing on
probably 10 feet.
The others are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say it, I feel this is a recommendation. Yes, it's a recommendation that I would continue on the conditions here. If I'm going to vote yes for this, and I mean, my feeling on dredging for private docks anyhow, but if I'm going to vote yes on it, I'm going to see 25 feet from the salt marsh, or I'm going to vote no. That's just my opinion. You've got 6 other people on the board, but
Could you go back to the pictures up
Yes.
there? And when we talk about 25 feet from the salt marsh, is there any way to kind of see that a little bit more clearly?
Let me,
Here's the marsh.
That's the marsh,
So he's
so
dredging.
25 feet would be quite a bit beyond where the shoreline is right now, right?
now,
I'm asking a question, just 1 second, please.
I don't have the plan in front of me, but yeah, he said existing as they want to dredge right now, it's just across from the landing. So the 25 feet would bring them into the
Go out
middle.
farther, yeah, okay. And would that solve their problem in terms of the collapsing dock and all that kind of stuff that's there?
It would get them some dredging. I think they would need to still rebuild their collapsing.
They'd have to build something else.
Where what?
I mean, if they want to continue to use this, it's up to their
Yeah,
discretion
I
if it's
just need
safe
to have
or
a
not.
clearer
But
picture.
I think the commission, we want this debris whatever debris is in there that's not part of the permitted platform, we would request that that be removed as a special condition, because it's not, this is not part of the permitted plan. It's just the platform was approved. I'm not really sure what this,
But again, going back to the 25 feet, would it start right at where the salt grass is, and then it would be measured out into the water, 25 feet?
yeah, that's correct.
So if we started there, we start 12 feet to the left of the float. I don't know that, the boat would still be aground at low tide at that point, even if it's parked bow in.
From this bottom
be-
salt marsh line,
Right about where the S is in floats,
25 feet off of that bottom line
is about where the S is in floats.
takes you to about the A.
I see it being right at the fold in the plan.
Yeah,
Oh, S, yeah, right close to the S.
Yep.
yep.
so they would still be able to pull their boat up on this side.
Now,
Back end would
I
be
gotta-
okay.
Still have it here.
Back end would be okay, but I think the bow would be on the mud.
Okay,
And we split the difference, any reduce in dredging reduces the cost quite a bit, so I'm all for that. But
I do have a.
the idea was to get
statement.
3 feet under the whole boat, because
All this would
if it
be
was considered a new dock,
big enough for his boat.
remember, when I design these, I try to bring them up to current standards, which would be 3 feet under everywhere.
He doesn't have the dock.
All right,
So we have the regulation now that we passed a while ago, that we don't allow any new docks if dredging is necessary to get to the 3 feet. This, to me, is like borderline on that, because you're dredging to get the 3 feet for a dock. It's sort of, even though it's an old one, it's sort of borderline on that.
I don't see it that way.
I think that's the only reason I'm even entertaining it is because it's an old dock.
Yeah.
Before we had the 3 foot, or before we had the no dredging regulation. Otherwise, I'd be saying no.
Yeah, it's not a new dock, this is
Well,
maintenance.
it's not a new dock,
This is
so.
maintenance dredging.
I don't know. So it's not a new dock, so we allow the dredging, but do we allow the dredging to go farther than what the DEP recommends?
No, that's, well, personally, I'm saying no. I would hold to the 25. That's just me.
I think we can make an argument based on on other hearings we've had that this could be defined as maintenance dredging. However, I tend to agree with Mr. Chairman about the 25 feet and ER's recommendation.
So if that leads to the bow being in the mud, you guys are okay with that? And the float would be in the mud too.
Not if you shorten the float up to get outside of that 25 feet limitation.
Well, he's permitted for these floats and licensed for them,
Understand?
yeah? So, does it have to be the 25 feet? Is there some middle ground here that can meet both? I personally, as an engineer and coastal processes and all of that, I don't see why dredging 12 feet away from the marsh with a 3-to-1 slope is going to harm the marsh at all. It's going to be, that marsh is already degrading, but it's not from the bottom, it's from just normal wave action that comes in. You can see where new pieces are breaking off. You can also see where the fence has been moved back a couple of times. That's just the natural processes that are going to continue. That has nothing to do with the bottom.
So that sloughing off has nothing to do with why it's filling in, is that what you're saying?
Some of it could be, that's possible. Generally, in these kinds of fingers, especially one that faces west, the sediment blows in off the marsh, goes across the water, especially during storms, and it just migrates toward these canals and then settles out because there's no more current. So,
Mark, I'm a little confused because I'm right here. Because at one time you said there's no wave action, and then you just said there's wave action.
during storms, of course, and during storms, this whole area is under the big one, this whole area is underwater by a couple of feet. So what I'm trying to say is that bank area is eroding from natural causes. It's got nothing to do with the bottom or any of the dynamics that the bottom of the canal is imposing onto the edge of the marsh. The marsh is going to slough off as natural processes continue. Dredging as close as I'd like to, okay, I understand the concern, I get that. If we could split the difference, I'm at 12 feet, you want 25. You know, if we can go to, 18 or 20 feet away, I think we've minimized any risk in an area like this. Remember, site-specific.
What do waterways say?
They're just navigation. They don't want to deal with this. Navigation and shellfish.
Can I ask a question while you're all thinking over there? This is such an unnatural area, the way it was developed and everything else. And so does everything that applies in a normal set of circumstances apply to this area? In other words, what are we trying to protect? If it's already, I mean, it should have been protected a long, long time ago, but it wasn't. So this is what it is. And to make it, and to agree to make it, I don't know, viable, usable by the owner, isn't that a direction we could go, even if it's, Mark is talking about a 12-foot compromise as opposed to the 25? It seems reasonable to me.
I would say we're still protecting the salt marsh, so that would be our priority as the Conservation Commission. But yeah, I see 18, 20, 25. I would say you have a great chance, better chance than you do now coming back with those compromises. I did have one question about the bulkhead. Does it go into the adjacent property here? Is this an anchor?
Well, it's all one wall, and the one next door is permitted to be replaced as well. So I guess the short answer is I'm not sure. Sometimes they build these walls a bunch at a time, and they just put returns in. Like, why that return goes so far back, I'm clueless as to why they put a return so far back. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so this is the return that exists, and you're just going to replace it?
Yeah.
Okay, and this part of the wall that's on the next property, you're replacing that?
No.
Okay, so why is it shown in red?
Just the color for drafting.
Okay.
I'm the one that does the drafting, so you can blame me.
Where would 20 feet be if we compromised? Where would it be? Could you tell me?
Yep.
I can show you. I can show them.
Okay, if I knew how to use that.
Got some experts here showing me.
Be about at the end of the ramp. Do you agree?
Yes, I would agree. Just about there.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
just a smidge beyond.
RCH.
Thank you.
Okay, how say the board?
I have one.
Yeah.
That landing, that's going to be replaced, or
Usually they'll have to remove it and then put it back. But
it'll be a little better built than it is right now? It'll be better constructed.
I can't answer that. I looked at it, we didn't propose it to be replaced, but it will have to be removed. So if they damage it in removal or something, it would go back exactly the same that it's there. And I agree with Brittany to a special condition to get the other garbage out of the way. It may be at some point in time it was serving a function, but it certainly isn't doing anything now.
So
That's no problem.
who would be overseeing the building of that? Brittany, do we?
Yeah, if the landing removal and replacement is part of this project, it should have been included in the narrative.
Well, when I say that, I don't intend to have to rebuild it, but it does have to be removed to get out of the way so you can do the sheeting and then put back. We do that all the time.
Okay. But so the pilings have to be taken out and put back in?
They shouldn't be, because we're not dredging under the landing, so they should be able to hopefully just disconnect it, move it out of the way, and then.
So moved it, not like take it out? Just,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I'm looking
The
at.
surface portion.
They would come in there with the excavator, pick it up, put it off to the side, do whatever work they need to do, and then put it back.
From a
Would that
safety.
also
And that's also-
include- Would that also include that bunch of
No, that
islands
They'd be
that are
taken-
sideways?
That gets removed.
Taking that out.
Yep.
I'm primarily asking from a safety viewpoint and a construction viewpoint,
Yeah.
which we have responsibility for too.
Well, the contractor obviously is responsible. I'm usually the project manager for these from start to finish. They haven't hired me to do that, but I'm going to say 99 out of 100 projects I do, I'm the manager from start to finish. So I do periodic inspections. If we have a pre-construction meeting, a lot of the means and methods are discussed that way to see how the particular contractor is going to perform the work and under what conditions.
So could that be made a condition to come back if it becomes a part of this project?
If what?
It's not a conservation concern, the safety portion. I don't think we can do that.
That's just liability insurance for the contractor, and if you have a hot cup of coffee, you don't spill it on your lap, you stay out of the way.
Okay, so you're looking at a revised plan. Are you saying that you would accept the 20, or are you saying, is somebody proposing 20 feet as the setback from the salt marsh for the dredging?
I thought we said 12.
No,
12
that's
is
what
the
we're
original.
looking for now.
12 is the original?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll propose it, sure.
Okay, so we're looking at 20 feet.
That is 25. Sure.
12.
Gonna make these
Brings
now.
it in the middle of the ramp.
That was their original.
Is that the only thing we have to worry about with the revision?
I believe so.
Right, that's all we've been talking about?
Right.
If you're going to revise the plan, you can put a note that the debris will be,
Yep.
thank you.
I was just going to say that.
Or did you just a note for what?
The wooden debris not associated with the platform to be removed.
The floating logs in there.
Yeah.
Different looks.
Including the floaty, if it's still there when they do the work.
Mark, this is the only,
Anything else?
this is the only finger that doesn't have bulkhead on this east face, isn't it? I think all the other ones have bulkheads.
I think you're right, but I can't say with certainty.
I think there's one more.
Yeah.
Was there some discussion about the gravel, instead of gravel, having plants above here?
I did put in my narrative, so this area is quite low. And I think next door, we did the same thing. It was a gravel buffer, and we said, look, if you put plants there, that as soon as they flood, they're just going to die. So the gravel serves as your uptake, intake buffer. And maybe perhaps a benefit also is that vinyl seawalls are more, they're not watertight, but they're much more watertight than wooden sheeting. So a lot of that water, most of it, has to go down until it finds a place to go.
Yep. Interesting, the stone one.
Anybody else? Any good?
Good.
Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom?
Even on Zoom.
That's all I'd like to see.
Didn't-
No further discussion. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions and pending receipt of a revised plan showing the dredging to be 20 feet off the salt marsh and a note on the plan for cleanup of the debris?
So moved.
Second.
And all the DMF conditions, except the one we changed.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
Do it again.
Jack, you seconded, right?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, chairman says nay.
Thank you very much.
And next order of business is another notice of intent for SE 83-2416, Mark Burgess for Matthew and Sarah Fitzsimmons, 14 Roads End, proposed seasonal freshwater dock and border and vegetated wetland land under water bodies and an inland bank. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself.
All right, just let the record reflect that chairman, he wishes. He wishes.
Oh, Ellie, my voting sheets are out of order. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Okay.
Which one is this again?
This
Actually, your
is-
voting sheets are in order. It was your
My report is out of order.
report was out of order.
Thank you.
I noticed that.
Nice.
Good. I got the
We're
right
okay
one.
with it.
We're at
We're at 14 Roads End.
Yes, thank you, Mark Burgess again. Mr. Fitzsimmons is next to me. So the short story, there was a dock here that was placed by the previous owner, and unbeknownst to the Fitzsimmons, it wasn't permitted, and so it was removed under an enforcement order, and it was removed right away. This was quite some time ago because of my workload. It's been a while since we been able to get back before you. But basically, it's a seasonal dock in Long Pond. If you've been to the site, you saw the dock sections up on the ground, on the lawn area down below. The previous dock was larger. It was too large. So we've reduced this back to 4 sections that extend, I think, 44 feet beyond the ordinary water line, back behind that to meet the land, in the same spot that the dock was, and the same, I believe, the same height that the dock was as well. It should meet all of the regs. The only thing that I was unclear about is where to take the height from, because this is another one, similar to the last one we did across the way, that when I went out there to stake it out, I'm not certain, Brittany can confirm, but I'm not certain that there's BVW under where the dock is. But that may or may not change the height requirements, but it's adjustable. If you saw the stakes in the water, that's what they're for. That one there and PVC out, right. That's a 4-foot stake.
Okay.
Actually, it might even be a 5-foot stake. And Waterways was able to review this as well, and they recommended approval. That's about it.
Okay, questions from the board? Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. On the plan, it shows the public access steps. Are they out in the water?
Well, they're above the ordinary high water line. So in theory, if the pond is at its normal level, they would be in the dry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is it here, 14.
Why am I looking at this plan?
What do you need?
Apparently I'm looking at the wrong plan.
Can't help you with that.
How did that get here?
Maybe that's an old plan, I don't know.
That's from last year.
Mine's out.
He's got it.
I'm fine while I'm looking. Brittany, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, I emailed you that I think our regulations state that the freshwater docks need 2 feet of clearance between the BVW height or the ordinary high water height and the bottom of the dock. And looks like
Like an inch or something off.
7, and the dock is at 7.7. Oh, sorry, no, so the ordinary high water is at 6 feet and the dock is 7.7 feet. So missed by little, but not by much, but thought I should point that out. And I also think that, let me get the relevant photo. here's our buffer zone. It's being mown to the edge of the pond. I think there should be a little bit of no disturb area on that pond edge if you're going to have your dock as access, just to preserve and stop cutting any of the vegetation that's growing up there. And also in the woods by the bordering vegetative wetland lines, it looked like there was some cutting going on in there as well. So those areas should just be left undisturbed.
I mean, you'd still get the 4 feet to the dock itself. You could keep that open, but everything, like, what do you want, like a foot or two from the bank?
Yeah, maybe 2 feet of a no mow
Just
up to the
don't
water
mow
surface.
2 feet back from the top of the bank. And then, like I said, you have the access for the
Are you okay with that?
for the dock.
I forgot to mention one other aspect that's in the narrative, and that is they want to do some invasive removal of poison ivy by using the Cape goats?
Yeah, that was Sarah's interest, is if possible, so if you're looking out, actually, right here as we look at this photo, to the left.
I didn't take pictures of that spot.
You gotta get it, you actually get it, you get a view of it right there. The poison ivy in particular, when the springtime comes, explodes into the yard. And so it's making that creeping path into the yard. So the thought was without having to look at any actual clearing, having something like the Cape Cod goats, the small transient goat group that comes for a certain number of days to just accomplish the goal of taking out invasives. That was Sarah's thought with that area there to the left, and Mark has it marked on the plan.
Is there any on the right-hand side too, or not?
Not as much where the trees are.
Okay.
Not as much.
You said it was on the plan?
It's where's the notation here? I know it's in the narrative.
Yeah, I saw it in the narrative.
Number 10, there is some poison ivy along the edge of the waterfront that is proposed to be
There it is.
removed using goats from Goat Green of Cape Cod, but it doesn't say where it is it?
Yeah, my only concern is that our wetland there, and goats, I don't think are selective in their eating. So I would be worried that management strategy would leave pretty much a clear area instead of selective poison ivy removal that you're going for. If you wanted to hand prune poison ivy, or I'd be fine with that. But I'm not sure about the goat method in a sensitive area where they could eliminate all the vegetation at once.
I think you'd have all of that BVW cleared
Yeah,
as
like
well.
there's a lot of wetland edge over here. So that would be my concern with that.
Do you know how they come in? Do they use dogs or fence, or what do they normally do?
Usually designated fence. They define it so that you only go so far, so many feet into the invasive area.
I've seen both.
Yeah.
Brittany, what's the most typical, because I've heard a lot of discussions about Phragmites and removing that, but I don't know if I've ever remember any discussion about how poison ivy is properly removed from an area like this. Do you say that, you said something about hand pruning?
Yeah, I know it's
dangerous to me.
Yeah, but
You can do that, or you can do a chemical.
yeah, or herbicide. I think I would be more comfortable if you had, if you come back with a vegetation management strategy under an RDA or something like that, so you get more, just put some more thought into how we could do that, because I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the goats right now, but there could be other methods that could be that could work well. And I did notice that it's a lot of brush over here too, so I'm not sure what your goals are for the area in general.
Yeah,
other
if
than
you
the
do that,
poison
you could
ivy.
come back as
As an
amended
RDA,
order.
or amended.
Or I might even go, it's such a small area. If it's a really small area, then I would say just a revised plan.
Yeah. I'm
like
not
just-
familiar with the process of the goats either. I don't know if they, like a dog, you can show them something and they'll go look for just that, but I don't know that goats are that smart.
No, they don't, they just eat. They just eat.
Some things they won't eat, but
Then you send
not
in the
much.
deer.
Just little.
One
So we,
other,
so we would not do that as part of this project then? Okay.
Ed,
Or if you'd come back with more information.
Yeah.
what are, how are you going to store the sections on the land during the winter?
Right now, they're on the lawn, back by the patio, back from the waterfront.
Because that probably kills off the lawn, hard to come back.
Well, there's a
They're
patio
on the-
there.
Yeah, they're on the patio right
they're on the
now.
pa- I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, no,
Oh, there's.
yeah, they're on the patio,
Oh.
and then there's two sections on the patio and two just immediately adjacent leading up to the shed. Yeah,
So we're saying dock to be removed seasonally to an upland area, like we do with all the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, that's the standard. I mean,
Be stacked on the patio.
yeah.
I'm fine with it on the patio.
I am too.
As long as everything's on the patio, then
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah. It's the shortest distance of travel, too.
the other thing, we just need a,
Understand.
We have a width by the dock that they could clear, or is it just the 4 foot for the dock?
I think the 4 feet of the dock is what they can clear, and then the rest of it, 2 feet back from the top of the bank should be left to grow wild.
Yeah. And then there are the narrow set of, there's currently some flagstone steps. It's what Mark included on the plan. It looks like a black square on the plan, depending on how large the image is. But those same three, right now they're flagstone, sort of a crumbling old flagstone set. So it would just be that one section, just from access up from the sand up to the top of the bank.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
Would you
then
need-
that,
Little
then
set,
that has
so-
to be cleared too.
Where?
Just that width.
would you need that if you have the access steps?
Well, because the dock is seasonal, you'd be able to use those steps instead of going over the bank edge when the dock isn't there.
That's the most eroded spot.
Well, can you put the steps underneath the dock so that when the dock's removed, the steps are there,
I suppose, yeah.
instead of off to the side?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Or put the dock over the, I mean, either way, I guess I don't really care, it's
So I
just
guess-
one.
If the steps are going to be reconstructed, they're going to
Put
be.
them underneath the
put 'em
dock.
underneath
I
the
put them
dock.
underneath the dock, and that
That's a
way you
good
have
idea.
access.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You don't need them otherwise, so,
No.
perfect.
You know, the only thing that they've sort of, well, I wonder, I'm just trying to think, you'll see some of the growth, some of those sticks to the left of the steps. It's kept that poison ivy at bay by having the physical steps there before you get to the dock. So that's the only thing with just the utility of them. It's really neat with the kids coming in and out in the summer and kind of physically trying to keep the poison ivy from creeping through and across. Just would be more useful if they're
Yeah.
not just under the dock the whole summer when we're using the front there. And carrying a kayak down, because then you're carrying a kayak onto the dock rather than being able to walk without stepping on.
You had the side steps you
on
can
the
go
bank.
down. You have the side steps you can go down on that.
Yeah.
So it's like 8 feet farther out from the, on that one side?
What do you mean?
Well, with the steps,
8?
because we're having the dock
okay.
access at 4 feet, right? And if we
Oh,
have
for
the
the
steps there,
no-mow.
then they can clear on, I just want to know
Yeah.
what I'm writing down here. If
I
we
see
have the
what you're
steps
saying.
there, it's going to be
I see what
another
you-
8
so
feet
to-
on that side.
I see what you're saying.
For 8
Clearing
feet.
through the,
Feet of clearance.
Total.
Clearance.
through the no-mow zone now.
Another 8 feet,
would
8 feet
require an
total.
extra width of clearing a no-mow zone to get down to those steps.
Right.
I think they're only
So,
2 feet wide? 2 feet wide?
yeah, but
The
that would,
steps are pretty narrow.
yeah,
so
then it would be like 6 foot,
Six.
a 6 foot wide
Well,
there.
the overall distance would be, well, I have here, the overall distance would be 15 feet wide
What?
at the steps. If this is a 20, oh, it's a 1 to 10, sorry, my mistake.
7.5 then.
All right, I got the right one. Okay, yep, 7, 8 feet, yeah.
Anybody else? Brittany, anything?
No?
Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom?
And could I ask one suggestion, maybe? Is it possible to put a condition in there instead of the goats to say that any poison ivy removal can only, under this order, can only be done by hand cutting? That's all that would be allowed. And any scope beyond that would require coming back here.
That's fine with me. It's
Works the same way.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so can we agree to just remove that, note number 10 about the goats then? Can we just mark up 2 copies and scratch that out?
And I mean, do you want them to do a plan or do conditions?
I'd really rather not have to make them go through the expense of adding another, just redoing 2 new plans for removing that one note.
If we both initial it, that's fine. If we both initial it, that's fine.
You good with that?
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm
Might as
gonna-
well add another note saying the 2-foot no-mow area.
I'm sorry, I missed you. What'd you say? About 2 feet?
The no-mow on the top of the bank,
Yep.
Okay, yeah. You got that.
beyond the steps.
Oh, you're saying you're going to want to see a revised plan showing the 2 foot?
I'm saying if you're adding that note, you might as well add the no-mow as well, because those were the 2 conditions we were going to add,
Yeah, that's what I have here.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, they'll be on the plan and they'll be in the order.
It's 3, 7.
Well, I make a motion, we approve this plan with the special conditions that we have pointed out.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Somebody with better handwriting than me should put those notes on the plan.
Scratch that out, and so initial here. See showing 2 feet from the top of the bank.
Is it really That's that. A little higher. Not house trained,
Sorry about the goats.
Where am I now?
Oh, we got it. Yeah.
whatever.
It's a good idea.
Something Sarah knew them back when she was on the Agricultural Commission years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, in an area that's not a wetland, it's a great idea.
Makes sense.
I worked at an arboretum that used them. It was cool. They got penned to different spots. Yeah.
Just hungry.
That's all they do.
Sunblock for you guys in Florida for a month. I'll come back on that face.
Howie.
Oh, yeah.
Joke and say that I shouldn't have bought that microwave.
I think you had fun, though.
Hey, you used your stamp.
Is it past your bedtime?
You used the stamp.
It really is.
You always, all right, we're good.
send it to you?
Oh, I can't sign
Sure.
that.
Tell me if I forget by Monday.
Okay, next order of business, another notice of intent for SE 83-2418, Mark Burgess for Linda Cook, 98 Driftwood Lane. Proposed coastal stabilization with fiber rolls and replacement and relocation of pilings and land under the ocean coastal bank, coastal beach, and the buffer zone to a salt marsh.
Yes, thank you again, Mark Burgess with Shorefront Consulting. Mr. and Mrs. Cook are here.
Linda Cook.
I'm sorry, Linda.
That's my wife
He's
back
my
there.
proxy.
You're not Linda. Okay, if you recall, some years ago, this was a site where there was a retaining wall that was done. This is prior to Brittany's tenure. And so it's a beautiful site right north of Viking Rock. And I read about that. I'll get with you later. But stairs go down to there's really no beach, but stairs go down to the existing dock and a boathouse, which has been there for a very long time, right? So Mr. Cook came to me and said, well, I'm concerned that the erosion, while a very slow process, eventually might get close enough to the foundation of the boathouse that it could cause some damage to it. And as I pointed out in the narrative, trying to fix the foundation of the boathouse because it's set into the hill would be just a monumental task, so it's something to be avoided at all cost. Lindsay Strode, if you're familiar with him, from Cape Organics, went out there to take a look at it and suggested this type of soft solution to just shore up the edge of the scarp there, using fiber rolls and some compatible soil on top, and then planting it with Spartina patens, I believe, is what he's proposing. And I'll get into that a little bit later. It's 20 feet of fiber rolls, and they will go in front or around the existing steps to the beach, and then under the dock to where the stake is on the other side, right there, that stake there. So the idea is just to shore up that edge and maintain it so that the erosion doesn't get any closer to the foundation of the boathouse. It's really simple. There's no hard structures. It incorporates oak, stakes, and twine. I've seen Lindsay do this project, a project like this many times to protect salt marsh. In this case, we're just trying to protect the scarp edge. So the other part of the project is to relocate and change two pilings that hold the float right now from these seasonal pipe piles to fiberglass permanent piles. So the advantage there is that the piles are permanent, so you don't have the seasonal disturbance of jetting them in and pulling them out. So once they're in, they're permanent, and of course they're fiberglass, so they don't rust, they don't rot, they don't leach any chemicals. That was the only reason that I sent the project to DMF, because it was technically work below the mean high water line. For some reason, they wanted to comment on the fiber rolls. So I'm not even sure what they suggested as such, but they mentioned something about the plantings, and maybe they're not familiar. I don't know what they know. I don't think their comments are really that appropriate per se. So Lindsay is one of the people that I know, and maybe Brittany can chime in on this, but Spartina patens don't have to be in salt water. He uses them as a restorative planting even on coastal banks. Normally we're all programmed that, the Spartina alterniflora, the thicker cordgrass, lives mean high water and below, and then the patens lives mean high water and above, but only to about the annual high tide line. Lindsay uses them all the time. So this is a project that he actually designed, I drafted, and filed for the permit. But remember, the goal of the project is just to slightly shore up this edge of the scarp area there. There's no coastal beach, there's no sediment, it's all cobble in front of here. There's not a lot of wave action, and if there is, it's primarily from boat traffic, probably. So that really, it's just that simple for this one. So I guess with that, I'll address any questions you might have.
From the board.
There was a cherry tree, there's a cherry tree down there. Are you removing that?
That's the one that's collapsed on the other side. It's kind of grown straight out.
Yeah.
Now we just leave it.
Have you hired the company that's going to do the installation yet?
The
Lindsay, for Lindsay.
yeah, I haven't hired him, but that's my intent. I've only dealt with him thus far, and I think very highly of him and his
And
operation.
what company is it that you're?
Organic Solutions, I believe.
Cape Organics is his company.
I haven't
He's the one who
dealt
submitted
with any of them, but.
the plan for the Great Island.
He was the chairman of the Harwich Conservation
Oh, that's-
Commission at one point.
That's right. So my only concern, it looks like you're proposing to stake the fiber rolls and everything down for the mesh. I don't have an issue with that, but the staking fiber rolls and that kind of habitat, I'd be concerned that you're going to be replacing them frequently, given that you're going to be inundated just about every day. So I personally think you should be looking at some sort of a anchor and cable system rather than staking. Staking is just, I don't think it's going to hold up to that area, that kind of energy and environment. I only say that because I've seen other situations where staked things just start to flop around in the tide, and so I would encourage you to do an anchor and cable system rather than the staking, just to prevent you from having to replace and reinstall the fiber logs more than what you would necessarily have to do.
So like a duckbill or something, you mean?
I'm sorry?
Like a duckbill anchor or something?
Yeah, it's the,
Yeah,
I
like
mean, the
earth
company's
anchors.
all, like the duckbill that it gets hooked onto it and
Stake it
then
in.
Yeah.
strapped in and plunged into the substrate.
So Lindsay's been using, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it's not a bad idea. If he chooses to do it that way, that would be fine. But in historically speaking, and me working with him over the past 10 or 15 years, he uses, I think I said there were 3-inch oak stakes, and there is one installation on the Herring River that 8 years later, the stakes are still there. I don't know what he does that's different, but this is the way that he's always done it, and they do stand the test of time. Now, having said that, one of the DMF suggestions was a monitoring plan. Lindsay also does this as part of course. He'll come to the site on his own as part of his contract to look at the fiber rolls, maintain them, tighten up any of the twine, or replace any of the jute or anything like that. So you wouldn't even have to condition that unless you want to, but he does that as part of course, as how he performs his work.
That's my only comment.
I have a question. Seeing as how these piles were seasonal and now they're permanent, I don't believe this went to waterways, did it? For navigational and shellfish?
Did I go to waterways for this one?
Because they're becoming from seasonal to permanent. I don't know, I would think that it should go to waterways.
I don't think I did on this one.
Yeah, I don't recall it, but I haven't been to every meeting, so.
Oh, well, I mean, there's piles out there anyway, and the float takes up more room than the piles do.
Well, the piles are seasonal. When the float comes out, the piles come out.
Yeah.
But this one, they're permanent. So that's the only reason why I was thinking of putting it through waterways, because they're going to be there permanently.
Yeah. I could ask them if they have any interest in it.
Yeah, ask for their recommendation. I think that's probably something that Bill would feel comfortable.
I mean, this shoreline is very rocky. People avoid it. You should avoid it. And it's even, well, inland of Viking Rock, which is quite famous if you haven't read about it.
Oh, I've read about it. But I would contact Bill Benetti, Natural Resources, and see how he feels about that.
Okay, I can email him that and see if he has any interest. I'll copy you on the email, Brittany?
Yes, please.
Sure.
And I would definitely add the monitoring
As a condition, annual monitoring. I'm also wondering why on your plan you have the observed high water instead of mean high.
That's what Down Cape gave me.
Okay. Well, the mean high water line is essential in determining whether a site is a good fit for a fiber roll project. And when we were there, I mean, there was water right at the spot. I mean, it's covered in leaves, but the water came right up to where you wanted to put the fiber rolls. And they're not really, I don't know, they're not meant to be inundated every day during the high tide. So it might be a difficult place to use the fiber rolls if they're going to be wet and degraded every tide cycle. So I think the monitoring reports would have to be annual at least.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 6 months, because if these are going to be getting inundated every day, it may not be a good spot to have them in, unless whatever plantings you have can get established very, very quickly.
Yeah, and I don't know what he uses, but I know there's two different densities of fiber rolls. So when you're doing real shorefront protection, you'd use what's called a high-density fiber roll. Those are hard to plant into. And then the low density are much more squishy, so they don't last as long, but plants can envelop themselves in them that much more. I don't know what he's planning on using. I don't mean this the way it might come out. I trust exactly what he does because I've seen all his projects, and he is the only one that I know of regarding even scientists and big companies and everything that has successfully really regenerated salt marsh in certain places. So I've just grown to trust what he does, even if it's different. And maybe that's why it works, because
Is he a SERP?
is different. I don't think he is.
In a sensitive habitat like this, usually the commission would request that a SERP be involved, especially if you're trying to establish salt marsh in a place that wouldn't. I know you said they grow outside of salt marsh, but you are trying to establish salt marsh in a place that doesn't usually grow.
Well, he's only using the salt marsh for plants. The salt marsh plants as plants. I would not, he's not putting any kind of peat substrate in here or anything like that. I would not call this a marsh
We do
creation
typically-
project. It's just the plant that he chose.
We do typically require work that occurs within the resource area that we get a CERP certified installer. I mean, I'm willing to go on a little bit of faith with this one, but I think we should go to every 6 months for the monitoring reports then, just to keep an eye on it. That would be my recommendation.
Could you say 6 months for like the first year, and then depending on the outcome, back off to?
I would say 6 months for the 3 years that the condition or order is ready to get. That will determine whether or not you've gotten anything established or not. So I would say for the 3 years.
And that just would consist of some photographs and an email or something?
A report on health and
Photos, summary.
condition.
Any maintenance they've done, any maintenance they think they might need.
Okay, you're going to spell that out anyway, right?
I usually just write monitoring reports, but I could put more detail.
Well, if it doesn't work, you'll be back.
Well, I have every faith that everything's going to be fine with this one, but I appreciate your concerns.
Okay. Brittany, anything else?
Are you going to submit, I guess there's no beach here, but you're going to put sediment on top of the rolls. So how are we going to compare that to the existing if there's no beach?
It's a cobble beach. What do you do?
You mean in terms of sediment size? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't know that you're going to be able to do a real good match with this one.
So should we just give a broad,
Yep.
I think so.
so what would the sediment analysis be like that we're putting back there if there's no sediment?
No, it's like, what, 3 or 4 yards, if that? Eight.
Good.
What?
8 cubic yards. He calls it manufactured fill, so it's a mix that he comes up with and brings down there.
Manufactured fill.
Manufactured fill. So
Is that-
special dirt.
But what does it consist of?
I guess the stuff that he is confident that the plants that he's going to plant there will grow.
Okay, so he'll need to give us an analysis of the manufactured fill. We need to know the grain, like what the grain sizes are.
Really? What do we do with that?
What do you do?
Goes in the file. It's in the file. It's a record for it.
Yeah, I mean, you ask for, anytime you do any kind of nourishment, you ask for a report on sediment size and to see that it's similar grain size and color consistency, that sort of thing, so it just becomes part of the record.
I guess this isn't a beach nourishment. We're
I
not doing any
understand that,
beach
but
nourishment.
but you're proposing to put something down, so we'd like to know what it is exactly that you're putting down. That's all we're asking.
Okay. I can get that from Lindsay. State the
Okay, anybody in the audience?
composition.
Anybody on Zoom? Not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions?
So moved.
Second.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks. Here you go. Oh, vacation's definitely over.
The next order of business, another notice of intent for SE 83-2417, Mark Burgess for Joseph and Meredith Zona, 39 Seth Lane. Proposed removal of concrete seawall, groin modifications, regrading, and beach nourishment in coastal bank, coastal beach, land under the ocean, land subject coastal storm flowage, and riverfront. And we are, just to let the record show that we are still awaiting DMF comment, so we will not be able to close this.
Okay. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, for the record, again, Mark Burgess, Chauffeur Consulting, representing the Zonas who are right next to me here. I know the board is very familiar with the site, so I'm not going to go over too much about what's there per se. I want to say, for me, this is one of the most interesting projects I've ever had the pleasure of working with. A lot of my ocean engineering background goes into analyzing a project like this and really working through it and coming up with the project as proposed. So I want you to know that about a year's worth of thought has gone into designing and evaluating options and analyses and things like that. I put all that in the narrative. So I had done research on groins and the length of groins and the spacing of groins and all of that. The conclusion I reached was that the groins as they exist conform to the relative design requirements of the standards that are out there in the world. At any rate, the site that we're working on is the waterfront portion. It consists of a ugly concrete and rock seawall that goes along the shorefront, and then on each property line there were two stone groins that go out. So all of these structures are have been licensed, so they're allowed to maintain them. In this case, what happened was the zoners came to me and said, "Look, we don't like all these ugly rocks. We want more. We'd like a little more beach, and not because we want to use the beach. They want to return the site to a more natural state. That was the number one goal of the project: return the site to a more natural state." So what I did was I analyzed probably 9 different alternatives, and I really hope you read all of the narrative because for me it was fascinating. Whether or not I wrote it or not, I thought it was fascinating. Any options to move or change the height or length of the groins is not recommended. And that's primarily because the upstream side of the groins is all concrete block seawall. So there's no appreciative sediment source coming into this system. Having said that, whatever sediment is there on that gentleman's beach, if we alter the groin, it's going to change his beach. And I did not want to do that. We want to try to leave things the way they are. So I felt that any modification of the groin to the north would alter the neighboring beach. So I did not want to do that. The owners own the property to the south. So I looked into changing the length or height or anything of the groin to the south. The conclusion I came to was that because the groins are properly spaced, and because there's not really much of a sediment source coming into this system, which is very unlike, it's very unlike, if you look at all the groins that are along the Yarmouth coast on the Sound, you can see how they build and scoop as they perform their function. None of that's happening here. The groins are able to maintain a minimum amount of beach here, but all that sediment is gone. And it's gone because it can't be replaced. So while you can benefit the downdrift beach by nourishing it here, you're not going to get additional sediment upstream to fill the groins. So the general practice, when you build a groin or a groin system, the general practice is you go back and you fill the system right away so that it's instantly performing in its natural state of collecting upstream sediments and releasing it when it's full to the downstream littoral drift system. Again, that's not happening here. So to restore that process, you would nourish this beach to fill the groins so that, one, the groins can maintain that sediment as much as possible, but also to reinstitute the natural process of the sediment transport that can now leave the groin system if it wants to and travel south to the downdrift beach where there is salt marsh and things like that. So that was the major function of why I came to the conclusion of do not touch the groins. There are impacts to doing anything to these. When they're filled to their capacity, they will function again, and that's one of the goals of the project. So removing removing a stone wall, seawall that's between the two groins. One, it's ugly, of course. Two, it's preventing natural sediment from entering the beach. And again, it's just ugly. It's not needed. There's no house there anymore. So the zoners wanted to restore that to a more natural beach. Now, Coastal Processes tells you that a 10-to-1 slope on a beach is more or less quite stable. The idea is the waves sort of run up gently and run back gently. The steeper the slope, the more wave energy is transmitted to that soil, which also means that it will carry more soil away when the wave retreats. So a 10-to-1 slope or less is reasonably what's required to try to mimic the natural function of a beach. And if you were to walk along a natural shoreline, you would see about that level in the area of the tidal zone because nature tries to restore it to that as well, unless it's altered to be steeper. So in order to do that, you want to nourish this in between. Now, landward of the top of the stone wall is a little bit too high. So what the proposal entails is removing that ugly concrete, all of it, and then taking a line from where you see the stake in the water out at the end of the groin, taking a line from the base there, so zero nourishment at that stake, carrying that 10-to-1 slope up through what was this wall. So where seaward of where the silt fence is, roughly, that gets cut because it's too high. So that gets cut, that material will get pushed forward, and then the remaining 124 cubic yards gets placed between the two groins at the 10-to-1 slope, only out to the edge of the groin, as shown in the plan. So we're not nourishing out into a channel or anything like that. Now, groins are porous, so sometimes the sand doesn't have to travel out and around the groin to perform its function. The natural process of waves and energy motion can transport the sand through the groin. So that's another reason not to alter these groins. If you're able to see this at low tide, it's fascinating for me because there's not that much of an elevation difference between one side of the groin and the other. And I believe that's because the sand is allowed to move through the groin under the circumstances that where enough energy is created to move the sand around of the source of sand that's there. That, I guess, more simply stated, that's the project. Remove the hard structures, restore it to a more natural beach in elevation, and nourish the area to get to that slope, because there's just no sediment source that's going to create it on its own. A shellfish survey was done. There weren't many shellfish found until you got out close to the end. I can't speak as to why. It's a nice intertidal zone. It's protected from a lot of wave energy from the groins. You would think the shellfish would love to hang out there, but there weren't a lot found. When I went to Waterways, I suggested that before any nourishment be done, that a qualified person through the shellfish constable, they wanted to make that clear, would relocate the shellfish to either side before any nourishment. And I believe that's in their letter that they submitted. It was today. I have a copy of it. But they recommended approval with the caveat that the shellfish relocation be performed. And it's in the construction protocol as well for this project. Yeah.
That is correct.
What?
That is correct.
Okay. And last but least, the area of where the seawall is now, about directly behind it, was the mitigation area for the house project. So Down Cape Engineering had put some plants directly behind that seawall in that area as mitigation for the house. Well, now we're gonna create a beach out of that, so we needed to move that mitigation area. So that Down Cape submitted a revised plan for the house project, which should be part of this file somewhere, that moved those mitigation plantings landward. They're roughly the same place, they just moved them landward. It's simply stated that plan has to be part of that order. So it's a revised plan submitted for that order of conditions for the house. But we had time together so we could talk about them tonight.
They did submit that. It was a confusing process, but we will review that and confirm and approve it after this has come to a conclusion.
Okay.
Just so that we won't do anything preemptively in case you have to make any changes. So we'll
Understand.
review that after this one is closed.
Yeah, I don't know why DMF needs more time. I wouldn't expect a standing ovation for a project like this, but to have the opportunity to take hard structures and remove them and more naturalize an area, I just think it's awesome. So with that, I will attempt to answer any questions.
On the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. There's existing concrete on top of the groins, which is also ugly. So that's going to be removed, and the stones that come out of the existing seawall that are getting removed, assuming they're small enough, will go back on top to just replace the ugly concrete cap that's on the groins. Yeah, over there. So that's going to go too. So you won't have any concrete left here, and it'll be all natural.
Ed?
Thank you.
Questions from the board?
Yeah. So Mark, your opening statement was to return the site to a more natural state. So by definition, in my opinion, that means removal of all man-made structures. And I can tell you that's the only thing I will vote for this evening, just to be very clear.
Those are all permitted and everything, Rick.
At this point, that's what I'm, how old are they? They're probably 100 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there was a dock there in the 30s.
Disturb the sand flow on the river. There's a lot of reasons why they, in my opinion, they don't belong there. So that's my statement.
I understand, and I knew that's where you were going to go right off the bat. I will say, I mean, that was considered in the analysis. I hope you read it.
Yep, of course.
Because if the entire shoreline north of this, upstream, littoral drift speaking, if that entire beach upstream was natural, I'm with you, because then you've got sediment sources coming in upstream of the system. They're going to carry down, and they're going to maintain this beach and the other downdrift beaches. But that function has been interrupted by man-made structures, so you can't go backwards at that point, Rick. If those groins are removed, there'll be nothing there.
You remove all of the concrete and stone for the breakwater, it's, the whole profile is going to change for the better, in my opinion.
Well, okay, so I think what will happen is all of that's going to erode back further, and it will eventually start to erode the downdrift marsh.
Okay, thank you.
We may differ in the opinion. I did look into that, but because the upper shoreline is all man-made and all man-altered, we can't go backwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an issue with the stuff going below the high water mark. We've had this up and down the river of replenishing beaches, and even DMF doesn't allow it below high water mark. I just have an issue with it putting all that sand there below the high water mark.
Well, mean low.
Mean low.
Mean low.
Mean low water.
Mean low.
Yeah.
Yeah, mean low is about halfway down, right?
Yep. I have to zoom in.
You shouldn't be filling in below mean low water is what
Yes,
she's
thank you.
conveying, and I'm agreeing with.
Yeah, and I mean, DMF does allow, we've had other nourishment projects, or I've had other nourishment projects, they do allow that. It's just, but I understand where you're coming from, and I
We've been
knew,
doing this between Bass River and Lewis Bay, just trying to keep it out of the water.
well, remember, because those groins are there, okay, they help maintain that sediment. So it's not like a beach nourishment that can go wild, if you will. If I was to cut back the slope from, and only do nourishment to mean low water, then I would have to, if I do a 10-to-1, I'm either going to be much further landward by the time I break into the existing slope, or I have to go steeper, which I don't want to do.
I understand you don't want to go steeper, but you could go farther back.
Well, no,
How far back are we talking?
I'd have to, if I continue, well, let me,
Cutting a considerable amount of the land.
I know. I can rough it for you. 1 second.
Oh, I mean, it might be worth it to just do that calculation for when you come back, because we have to wait for DMF comment anyway.
We're gonna have to wait, so.
Yeah.
But I would definitely be prepared to use that as a,
Alternate.
yeah.
Well, it's cutting about 30 feet.
Ed,
Yeah.
can you tell me how many walls there are above? There's none below, right? To the south. This is the last one?
A groin, you mean?
Yeah.
They don't start till you get south of, right around like Ship Shops, I think. Now, immediately south of this is their second property, which is completely natural salt marsh beach and things like that. Immediately south of that is either another private property, and then eventually you get to that hotel that's right by the bridge, and that's all rock revetted. And there's no beach there that I know of.
And how many groins or whatever are above?
How many, what?
None? There are none north of this?
Not that I'm aware of, no, because you get into, that concrete block seawall goes for hundreds of feet to the north, and then it starts to wrap around the corner where you start to get to is it Blue Rock?
Bass River.
Bass River Golf Club. There's a couple of bulkheads up there, but no, there's no groins in that area.
What part of the river are you on right now?
Well, there's some right there.
No, that's a duck.
Is that a dock?
Yeah.
Those are
it's a
docks.
duck.
There are only docks, Jack.
There's none of
except for these two.
Yep.
Correct.
Never mind.
No.
So I would, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if, I understand the commission's concern, if they were to remove this one to the north, they would have to get the other property owner on board. It would highly affect their property. So I think I'm not sure. They would have to agree on that.
Yeah.
It also looks like it's on their property on this map. So they wouldn't be able to change that part to the north.
Yeah, I think you can only be looking at the
The south would be the only one that we would be able to discuss with this project.
I agree. If you do anything to the north, that guy's beach goes. It's gone. Whatever's left is gone.
I think, yeah,
Be happy.
if you look at the curve of that property,
Which,
you do anything with those groins, it's going to come within 10 feet of the house.
the house no longer exists.
Not there anymore.
House is all gone.
No, I thought there was a house, oh, how far back is that house?
Way up, way up, way up.
At the time the survey was done, there was a house there, but it's not there anymore.
I'm not listening, I guess, Will. So if you took out the groin, so just to where the wall is that you're going to take the concrete,
You can see that it's cutting in to the north. It's cutting back because of that groin. 10 feet. Having a more natural shoreline without
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
groins.
you would.
absolutely.
We're removing the southern one.
Guess it's okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You'd have more beach.
Okay.
The sand
You
could,
repeat
it
that,
could
Rick? I didn't
overwash
hear
the
you.
marsh, though.
So you would have a more natural shoreline with those groins removed. You can see the northern one is causing a cutback to the north.
Well, even if you took half of the groin out, so it went back to where it's capped, it would be,
If you do anything to the north groin, the guy to the north is going to lose whatever beach he has back to that point. He is not going to be happy.
And I don't agree with that,
Why?
Mark, because you can see that it has eroded to the west there, based on the protrusion of that groin. So I think that's an assumption you're making that isn't based, I just don't agree with it.
Well, he's got boulders back there too, because there's a marine railway or the remains of one where
Sure,
those
I
rocks are.
remember that, actually.
Yeah.
so there are no models out there that are specific to this kind of problem on fresh water or on rivers?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, we deal with the coastal processes here, so and rivers have a current in one direction, whereas here you're bilateral.
Which make the model a lot easier.
No, I think it doubles it, because you have to account for the transports in both directions.
That's right.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I would be concerned about, I understand that the coastal bank is man-made, but creating a 10-to-1 slope would essentially remove a resource area. The coastal bank would no longer exist. And with no coastal bank or a coastal dune, like you said, there's no sediment supply for this beach. So I think if the intent is to get rid of the man-made wall and to have a beach, I think a coastal dune have to source to supply a sediment to the beach. Otherwise, the erosion on the coastal beach between those groins might not make it last very long.
You're saying create a dune.
If you're going to
Essentially,
take
the
away the coastal bank, I think, yeah, to create a small dune would
I mean, I think
make
otherwise
sense.
you're going to have constant run-up.
And then you're always going to be nourishing it if there's no sediment supply. And is there a nourishment plan? I didn't, for the
Well,
beach?
It's on the plan as far as the volumes and where it's located.
But other than the initial,
No, this would be one of these, this would be one of these projects that you'd probably want to continue at least for the 3 years to see how it performs, and then perhaps modify it accordingly later on.
That would be my concern, and that's what I think DMF is going to take comment on.
Well, if you had some kind of a mound landward of the, so first of all, if we started at mean low water, went backwards, landward, it would go about another 10 feet. If I just, by my rough ruler.
Okay.
It would go another 10 feet landward. If we put, this is all above mean high water, so if you put a mound of sand there that could be sacrificial only in storms, well, some of the high tides we've seen there, who knows, right? We'll have to look into that and see if that's something to consider, and we'll wait and see what DMF says too.
Yeah, just an idea. I just, the prospect of removing a resource area entirely, although I do understand it's man-made, is concerning. Losing a coastal bank there.
How are we removing? We're just regrading that area.
But a 10-to-1 slope doesn't meet a coastal bank.
That's not a bank. It
Yeah,
doesn't meet
so-
the definition of a coastal bank.
Yeah, but the driveway is nearly flat. That's not a coastal bank either. The coastal bank was
Bank was
defined
the
at the
wall.
flood elevation, right?
But the bank, the
To be a
bank was the
bank.
wall.
Yeah, the bank is the wall.
That's where your top of bank was.
Where did they put it? Oh, that's what they said.
I mean, I like what the idea of moving it back. I mean, I agree that you can't be putting sand in below mean low water. Which, and I understand the need and necessity for a 10-to-1 slope. I would agree then would be, the only way to do that is to go back. You know, and if you're saying 10 feet back, then I would also consider, to maintain that slope, but then I would also consider putting a dune in and I would try and plant it as a dune. And so yes, it is sacrificial somewhat, but it's also acting as a dune, which is
Considerably more
really what
coastal
the coastal
protection.
bank
Yeah.
would have been doing too. I mean, that's you're getting, more bang for your buck that way. I wouldn't just put a load of sand on top and just leave it there because, yeah, it's sacrificial, but it'll blow, wherever the wind
It'll
is
do what
going,
dunes, it'll
so-
do what dunes do, yeah. So it's
I would
okay to
say
create,
plant it,
it's
you know.
okay to create a different resource area in this case? No pun intended, but dune to me has always been like a four-letter word. I stay away from it. I don't like to do anything with it. I don't like to alter them or change them in any way. So creating them is new for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not altering or changing, you're creating. You're creating a dune, essentially, that mirrors the function
Of the bank
of
that
a
was
coastal
there.
bank.
That's the old
So
one.
it provides a little bit more protection to the property itself, above and landward of the dune.
That's the area.
Yeah, it's going to come in,
Same time providing,
Sediment.
sacrificial sand and sediments for the coastal beach area.
I think,
So,
I'll bet you a beer that what's going to happen is that sand's going to move more landward than it is seaward, but Mother Nature will drive that bus. Because the water also comes in from both sides too, because it's just so low. It doesn't just come in from in between these two groins, it comes in from everywhere.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would, I mean, depending on how you design
It was just an idea.
you design the dune to mimic a natural dune, yeah, I mean, but that's that's what a dune is supposed to do, is supposed to migrate, so.
Okay, we can look into that.
I ask a question about your comments. You're talking about creating the dune and everything. Does that include the removal of those groins or no?
No.
No, okay.
No, I mean, I would sort of like to see going to go, but reality says I don't, without having a thorough analysis from a coastal process specialist, I don't know that I'm willing to take that chance. I'd be more so on the southern side, on the southern groin.
The northern one's owned on the other property, isn't it?
Sorry?
The northern groin is on the other person's property, so we,
Yeah, I mean, part of, a good portion of it is on the other property, so you would have to get permission from them to remove that part, and I don't think you're gonna get permission to do that.
Oh, if I owned that property, I would say no, definitely.
But I think that would be I think what we're saying is it would be a better design, and that you're not destroying resource area below mean low water. You still allow for potential for a shellfish. I mean, I realize that there wasn't a lot there to begin with, but that's not to say that you're not gonna get more shellfish in 2 or 3 years, so. I think what we've outlined is it would be a better strategy myself.
I think it's
What I'd like to see.
I think it's a reasonable alternative. I mean, it's a complicated project because there's so many factors to consider. It's not,
And you can think about it, I mean, you have time to think about it. Like I said, we'll have to wait for the DNF comment anyhow, so.
Yep.
It gives you some more time to sit down and think exactly how you want to design it.
just, and the house, the mitigation plantings for the house would have to move around that also. Or if
That's why we
it's
wanna
beach
wait.
grass plantings, could it be counted as part of that square footage?
That's why we want to wait to consider those. Once we have a solid plan for this one, we can incorporate the mitigation plantings from the other project.
Because you adjust it accordingly.
Yeah, it would be adjusted. So are you asking if those mitigation plantings could be the beach grass instead?
Yeah, and put them on the dune.
That's what it says on these plans anyhow, beach grass.
I mean, without looking at the previous,
I think it was beach grass and bearberry.
yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know why we're approving Bearberry there, but.
Well, it was on a flat
But beach grass and bayberry would be appropriate.
bayberry, yeah. Yeah, we'll have to,
Yeah, they have 650 square feet of American beach grass and then a 5-foot strip of bearberry. That's what's on their revised plan.
What damn fool approved that?
Township engineering.
It could have been, yeah. But why did we approve it? That's what I'm saying. I mean, I would be willing to entertain some of that then, as part of that. You know, I think that would be a better design, as well.
Okay?
But you don't want to just you don't want to just drop a load of sand down there, because number one, I think I would like to promote the idea of making something look nicer. I mean, it would be like a big pile of sand. It would look kind of yucky. Let's say it that way.
Squishy, yucky.
If I could comment, on the revised plan, Brittany, we had asked Down Cape to overlap the beach grass on the nourishment area. So it wasn't just a bare strip of sand. It was overlapping on an angle to allow a slightly bigger usable beach, but not to try to capture 90 feet of just strip of sand there. We're
Okay.
very sensitive to the appearance, too.
I didn't upload it.
Yeah, they have it.
I think that would be, I think everybody would
Existing fence.
like that more. I mean, you, us, and DMF and everybody else, so.
Anyway, okay, well,
Yeah, we have a copy here if it's useful.
oh, don't you get this?
Do we have a
Builds up
copy of that?
on the southern side.
He didn't give me
It's in,
a hard
and
copy
starts
yet.
to build up on the other side. That's way in there.
One of the green.
Told him we'd look at it after this
I have the
outcome.
PDF, I print these out all day
Kind
long.
of depends on it completely.
Yeah.
So let's get this figured out first, and then we'll fine tune it on the other side then, with that other plan then.
So what I'm hearing from the commission, which is not unreasonable, I think it's a reasonable alternative to consider. What I'm hearing is no nourishment below mean low water. If we keep the 10-to-1 grade, it's going to go back another roughly 10 feet. I won't know till I draft it. Place sacrificial sand dune above the cut area and plant it, and some of the beach grass plantings for mitigation from the house could be used in that area. I guess my only question is how big a dune are we talking about? How do we figure a volume that's somewhat, that's acceptable? You know, what do you do? I can tell you that we're, in the plan as it stands, we're cutting 22 yards. It's, okay, the more I think about it, it's kind of strange. If we're cutting 22 yards, and we just extended, well, no, if I move it landward, I've got to go through that. I have to cut that back. Geez, it's almost like if you take, let's, at the moment, it's 22 yards that we're cutting to maintain that slope. Instead of putting that seaward, you put it landward.
But you're still putting sand in, right? I mean, it's still,
You'll have an amount. It's going to be less because we're not going as far out.
I guess I have to see the,
Yeah.
you're going to have to work the numbers on it. I can't do the math on my head right now, so.
No, but the dune could be created from the soil that's cut in the
At least
bank
partially,
area.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, unless it might not be sand, but it'll be whatever's there.
I mean, you want a fairly good size to the dune, so it doesn't get wiped out in the first overwash.
Have you guys viewed the site during some of these recent high tides?
How about this morning? This morning was a really high
I was
tide.
going to say,
It was really low this
next
afternoon, too.
Wednesday, I think next Wednesday is
Oh, really?
your highest tide for the next 10 days or so.
There's a 3.3 coming very soon.
Yeah. It was really low today. I walked around to some other projects, and I'm like, I haven't seen that before, so it's even lower. Anyway, okay, so we'll consider those three things,
Okay.
and
We'll be back on the 21st. Back on the 21st?
I guess, let me check. Yep.
I go the 21st or
April 4.
4th, right?
Well, so,
April 4th would be the one after that.
well, this isn't going to take much time to do once I get a chance to do it. And Down Cape presumably can turn around a stamp fairly quickly. All right, so,
March 21st is good?
yeah, the only reason I want to push this is because I've got about 10 filings to do in Dennis, and I need to get out of here first.
Just
All
make
right.
sure that you resubmit to DEP as well with the revised plan.
Yeah, I can copy Sarah when I send it to you. So continue to 321, that means you need the plan by the 14th? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that okay with you guys? So, no standing ovation. I'm disappointed.
It's the way life is. Remove the groins and then we'll stand up for you. How's that?
It's like I give you a really good thing and you just want more, you know? Man.
Details.
Think about the south side one.
To stand, I mean, it's a.
Think about it.
I thought about it, and that was part of my report. I just, I can see why nobody likes to do them now, because they got to be done right, or they have more negative impacts than positive. And I'm just, of what I know, of what I've researched there for now, it's better to work with it than remove it, and then, because once it's removed, you can't put it back, and if you're like, oh crap, look what happened, that's on us, and I don't want to take that responsibility. Anyway,
All right.
okay, so I thought
Make
it
a
was
motion,
interesting
we
anyway.
continue until March 21st.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. So we'll see you on the 21st.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jump the gun.
Next order of business, a request for certificate of compliance. It's on EZ, so this is SE 83-381, 21 Cape Isle Drive. No problems. Do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for SE 83-381?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Just to finish up then with the enforcement, we got Stephen and Christine Arden, 65 Winter Street, unpermitted walls, fill, stone in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. We're all good with that now, I believe, right?
Yes. Winter Street.
Oh, Winter
This
Street.
was the swimming pool.
That's right, the swimming pool. No, that was earlier.
Which one is this?
Cape Isle Drive.
And it's not on my notes here.
COC.
Okay.
And it's not on my notes here.
Do you need anything more with that, other than,
Resolved with the amended order, right?
we're
So I don't have to, what am I going to write in the minutes?
Resolved with the amended order.
Resolved with amend- I was going to write all good.
all good. All right, and the other business, approval of meeting minutes for February 15th, 2024.
That's fine, I'll move to accept.
Oh, here's Winter Street.
The minutes,
Winter Street is all set.
this is the February 15th.
February 15th.
My name's not on the list,
Oh, geez, okay.
but I voted.
Do you want credit for it?
It does.
Okay.
Hey, at least someone reads the minutes. Woo.
Also, down on, at the, where, talked about mitigation, dry wells on the Glenwood Street. I asked about putting in dry wells for the roof drains, which they said ended up doing, I think. And
Isn't there a comment about dry wells under 26 Glenwood? We don't usually write everyone, I don't know, sometimes it's a summary minutes.
Yeah, I mean, was it done?
Thank you. Yes, it was done.
Oh, this pen was.
So
Quite well, actually.
with the minutes, they have to, it doesn't have to be a word for word or,
well, shucks. Okay.
so you're good? Yeah. Okay. Are you seconding then?
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Any other business
Yeah, I'll
not
take one
reasonably
minute.
anticipated?
Next Wednesday, and Thursday, sorry, the March 14th at 10 a.m. is the, what's it called?
Yes.
Groundbreaking, thank you, for, groundbreaking for the wastewater. 10 o'clock, March 14th on South Shore, 170 South Shore. You can just park at the beach, because that's where it's going to be, and supposedly they're trying to get some important people to come besides us, because we're very important. And secondly, things are moving along. This week, they're supposed to start doing some work on Contract 3, which is South Shore and Seaview Ave. Yeah, that was this week. And so there are 2 contracts that are being worked upon over the next couple of months. They do take the summer off, obviously, because of tourists. And then they're still working on trying to get approval to bid out the plant itself. But things are moving along, not very fast, but at least they're going in the right direction. That's it.
Well, thank you. Anybody else?
Good news.
Sure. Our invasive species project has started. Phragmites will begin management at Run Pond Road on South Shore Drive and Run Pond Road, along with Benno Brook Conservation Area. It'll be mown in late March by Crawford Land Management, and followed up with treatment in August. Our CPA application is through to town meeting for the rest of the locations, including Taylor Bray Farm and Alms House Road. That's all.
And
great
do they
news.
know that the new guy's coming on Wednesday?
And we have a new employee starting next Wednesday in
Bravo.
Conservation Division. Name's Finn.
You said invasive Taylor Bray Farm and where?
Alms House Road. So Alms House Road is just spot treatment. We've done it in the past. There's just a few stems here and there that want to
I'm out there
take care
all
of.
the time. I walk the dog there all the time.
I walk the dog there.
I don't, because mine keeps running into the marsh.
That's what leashes are for.
That's right, you're supposed to have it on leash.
Outdoor shower support.
6-foot
Oh,
leash.
rinsing stations.
All right, anything else?
Brittany, you've been out looking at the pipe laying and the dewatering,
Dewatering.
and that seems to be going all right? Or-
Yes, I approved 4 sites for dewatering for the wastewater on South Shore Drive.
Is that a constant thing that will be for the whole?
Is that, I'm sorry?
Is it constantly going to be for that whole stretch?
No, they work from one side to the next side. So each dewatering basin will be used before the next one. So they move along the road, and it's only in the off-season. It's not during the summer.
We are not really a part of our work, or as a board, as a commission.
It's like an administrative review. So it's a small project, like even if it wasn't a town project, I would just review it in the office. If I had any questions, I would bring it to the board.
Oh. Okay. Take it to Dave. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll move. Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned at 7:21.